What's going on, trading card game players? Figs here with Figs Forum, bringing you another tournament report. So I went ahead and participated in the Lockhaven, Pennsylvania regional. I think we had somewhere around 130 players. We ended up doing 8 rounds of Swiss. Of course, I brought Phantom Knights as usual. So I wanted to go ahead and go over my list that I played. It is somewhat different, slightly different than what I was doing in my previous video. I made a couple of changes, nothing too big, but they were relevant changes because I really wanted to go with something a little more consistent. But I just wanted to share with you guys this tournament. I was able to place 9th, going 6-2. No draws this time. I was a lot more persistent in regards to the time and paying attention to things. Also, my matches went pretty quick. Every win I had, I was actually able to 2-0 my opponent, aside from my losses. So the deck was very successful. It did everything that it needed to. The only times that it really just didn't get there was when, in my 2 losses, of course, one of which was against Swordsoul. He won the die roll, opened up the complete nuts. He had the trap that blows up 2 guys. He had an imperm, a hand trap. I just couldn't play through his board, unfortunately, without a droplet. And then I also lost to Despia. I lost with a minute 30 left under 2 Masquerade. So yeah, it's very hard to be able to win in time against a deck like that. Of course, if I had a little bit more time, I could have possibly OTK'd him with Rebellion, but he also had access to Snow, which really shut me down for the turn. But yeah, it was definitely very good games, very fun. A lot of cool matches, actually. I played against like Weather Painters. I played against a Magikey Synchro Brave deck, which is very similar to like the actual like base decks. They use the Rose Dragon to make like synchro plays and to make really high-end plays. But yeah, so I made some changes. Wanted to go ahead and show you guys the transformations that I made in regards to the deck. That way we can continue to make changes to the deck and, make it as better as usual. Definitely go ahead and, give me some comments down in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think. I am trying a different format for my videos as well. As you see, I have a little bit of an overhead camera as well as a display here. It makes it a little bit easier so I don't have to go ahead and transition between the two, but also allows me to be able to, speak to you guys directly and, you can see my face and everything. But, oh yeah, let's go ahead and get into the deck list. Like I said, the deck performed phenomenally. I had little to no issues, honestly. I tried to make it as consistent as possible. I did brick one time. I did have a couple really odd hands, but of course, since a lot of the cards in this deck are pretty broken, I was able to pretty much play through any awkward hands, aside from the one game that I lost to in time against Despia. I actually ended up, with the minute 30, I had a Sir and I had a Wandering Griffin in hand with no Brave Engine. So it was very difficult for me to play the game with those two, considering that the deck now does not have that generic link, of course, Verte, that allows us to be able to go into something pretty OP. So yeah, it was a little more difficult. But like I said, the deck performed. I went 6-2, and this is my 2nd regional of the season. Actually, my 2nd regional since I've been back. My 3rd invite that I've gotten this year. My 1st invite I got at the OTS. The other one at the Hartford regional, and then I got my invite, of course, placing 9th at the Lockhaven regional. So let's go ahead and get into it. So we'll start with the Brave Engine. I did, of course, play the 3 right, the 1 Faithful Adventure, the 1 Draco back, the 3 Water Enchantress, the 1 Griffin, and the 1 Illegal Knight. So that was one thing that was a little bit different. I decided to pick up the Illegal Knight before the event. I wanted to have access to it. This card was utterly insane. It's really great for playing into boards because, of course, you're able to target 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field, give them access to this, and then Draco back's able to bounce this back to your hand. So you're basically recycling him for your next turn. Because, of course, if you're playing into a board 9 times out of 10, you're not going to lose your token unless you're going against Despia and they decide to banish it. Otherwise, yeah, this card's actually really insane. It overperformed. The only thing I didn't like about it going into the fusion matchup is that 9 times out of 10, if you target one of their fusions, they're going to hit you with a Super Poly, they're going to hit you with a Branded in Red. So they're going to be able to play around the targeting effect, and it doesn't feel too good targeting monsters that they're just going to get rid of anyways, and and chain their effects. So he didn't really perform too well against the fusion decks, but against every other deck, he performed pretty well. I thought it was a very solid card. But otherwise, of course, the OP Brave Engine, which they obviously for good reason should have hit. So now let's get into the Phantom Knight engine. We have, of course, our 3 Phantom Knight Torrent Scale, our 3 Silent Boots, our 1 Greaves, our 1 Gloves, and then I decided to do 2 Cloak. So looking at the deck list, of course, we are still playing the Scythe Lock. This deck is most consistent in being able to see at least 1 Phantom Knight name. Greaves is the only exception because, of course, he doesn't actually get you something. Also, he is not really a real Phantom Knight name in the sense that he does require you a different one, but not in the same respect as Boots, where Boots you can essentially have in hand with another Phantom Knight and still be able to combo off. He requires you to actually have to have another one in hand while putting him in grave. So he is the awkward one, but he is still very good and very necessary for being able to overextend. So of course I didn't want to remove him, but I did put in another name for Cloak, just because of course we need at least 2 bodies in order to really do our plays. But as long as we've seen 1 Phantom Knight, generally we're able to play through 2 hand traps very easily, as long as we've seen 1 Phantom Knight in the start of our combo. Because of course we're still playing the Cherubini, we're still playing the Graph, for the Sir, and then we're able to recycle. So that, we're using to dump for a Burning Abyss. We're not using it for a Phantom Knight. So it is pretty ideal and pretty essential to play multiple names. It does help. It does come up. And if you want the deck to be as consistent as possible, sometimes you do have to put in more names because the deck functions best when you're seeing Phantom Knight names. So that was it for the monsters, of course. The traps, still the same. 2 Fogblade, 1 Wing, and then the 1 Trap Monster. Honestly, the Trap Monster has been underperforming. Now that we don't have access to Verte, he's not as likely to come up. The only time he does come up is if you do need to extend past a hand trap and you need to turn Cherubini into anything else. Nightmare Unicorn, Gloomy, Bardiche. This does allow you to get into that without having to waste too many resources. You can get it back with Boots. You can get it with Cloak. And then, of course, Gloves turns into either of those. So it is nice to still play this, but I honestly kind of see myself not possibly playing it in the future because I am trying to come up with more renditions of Phantom Knights like I had described before, as well as ones that I didn't mention, just so that I can continue to try to, transform this deck as much as possible. But yeah, so I definitely think he might potentially get cut. We'll see, depending on how the other engines go. As I said, Sir Graph, we're still playing it. We want to recycle the Cherubini. It's nice being able to bring back a Link 2 because it does allow us playing into boards to go into Unicorn. It does allow us to then bring back Cherubini, and then we're able to pretty much get a free access code. Also, you're able to chain block the Sir with Unicorn or vice versa. So if you know you're playing against a trap deck, which is what I did at one time, I actually put Unicorn as the Chainlink 1 and Sir as the Chainlink 2. So that way I could chain block him from being able to strike my Unicorn. So I could keep it on board to go into access code. So yeah, definitely, it's definitely nice. Like I said, these are good because they do allow you to overextend. And then also, again, with just 2 cards, you're able to do full combo. I'm still playing the Terratop and Taki Taborg. I think this engine is just utterly insane. A 1-card Cherubini, a 1-card anything essentially in this extra deck. So, it's nice to be able to have access to a Break Sword if you need to pop something ideally off rip. This threatens your opponent's board just off of 1 card. And then, of course, it's a Cherubini when you need it. Utterly good. Honestly, though, I will say when it came to siding, I actually sided this out pretty often. I don't like it too much going second because I'd rather see other cards and names. And also, drawing this going second doesn't really feel that good. I don't mind drawing it going first if I'm setting up Brave because you're not playing into anything but hand traps. So you're not really having to worry about your opponent's board and seeing that kind of consistent setup. But yeah, I sided this out a lot, especially when because I am playing a lot of 3-ups on my side. I wanted to make sure that I had something optimal to take out that wouldn't hinder me from being able to complete, obviously, what the deck wants to do. So this was like the only thing I could think of. But it was good. Ideally, again, it worked out the way that it needed to when it came to siding. I'm still playing the 2 Psychics because, of course, we're still playing the 3 Emergency Teleport. I went against what I said last time, and I did take out the second Wielder. I also took out the Danger to obviously create consistency. I brought the deck down to 40, so that's the only reason why I did take out the second Wielder. Luckily for me, I did not see these 2 plus an E-Tele. I was able to avoid the shenanigans because, as I said before, that happens a lot where I'll see 2 Emergency Teleport, or I'll see a Emergency Teleport, and then I'll see these 2 creating dead cards. But luckily for me, I didn't run across that situation in the tournament, so that was nice. The 1 Scythe, of course, to be honest with you, I actually did not summon Scythe once. I lost all of my die rolls but 2. The 2 die rolls that I lost were actually against Swordsoul and Despia, or the ones that, I lost the die rolls against those. But yeah, I only won 2 die rolls. I don't even know what matchups they were. I think one was Weather Painters. Yeah, one was Weather Painters, and the other one I believe was Magikey. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I only won 2 die rolls out of 8 games. I never summoned Artifact Scythe once. I actually cited it out every game too because I was looking to kill my opponent with Rebellion or to play through a board, and I did not want to draw this. So I did cite it out. Obviously, I'm going to continue to play it. It's an option. It's just unfortunate that I don't win die rolls. 3 droplets, of course, like I said, 3 emergency teleport, and then of course the good one-ofs, we have the Foolish, the Rhoda, and the Call by the Grave. Ideally, I want to continue to play Droplet. Even if I decide to go more full combo with the deck, I will continue to play Droplet. I think it's obviously an insane card. I think it's one of the best cards in the game in terms of breaking boards for going second, as well as setting up for going first, because it's a card that your opponent just can't respond to. Especially if you're doing your chains correctly and you're getting rid of cards correctly. So I definitely think this will continue to stay in the deck, even if I decide to go more full combo, because it's just, these cards all float, they all play from the grave, so being able to get rid of stuff doesn't really hurt too much. So it is nice to have that access. But yeah, so no tour guide, no Kagamusha Knight, no danger. Took out a wielder. Like I said, I wanted to make the deck as consistent as possible. I took out one of the wielders, of course, like I said, for a cloak, and brought the deck down to 40. So yeah, like I said, we really wanted consistency, and we really saw it. It was great. It was great being able to have that consistency with the deck. If you guys decide to try it at 40, let me know what kind of changes you make. I'm definitely interested to see what other people come up with as well. So let's go over the extra deck. We're playing the Dagda. The extra deck is actually completely the same. I didn't change anything from before. So we've got Dagda. We've got Unchained Abomination. I actually did not summon him once at all in the tournament, because as I said, I lost almost all my die rolls. So like most of the time when I went first, I was actually going into Appaloosa. So yeah, it just felt good going on Appaloosa with 2 Fog Blades, honestly. Most of the time, my opponent just couldn't play through it. And if they seen the droplet, all they were hitting was Apple, and then they had to play through 2 Fog Blades in the Griffin, in the Brave package. So Gloomy, Rebellion, Raiders Knight. Like I said, Rebellion actually OTK'd quite a bit. I don't even know how many times I OTK'd with it. It's nice when your opponent plays Lynx and they just have to leave everything in active mode or in attack mode. 2 Break Sword, of course, like Unicorn, Access Code. He won me so many games. Cherubini, Appaloosa, Bardiche, and then, of course, Levier, Downard, and Zeus. I went into Zeus twice. This actually was very relevant. I will definitely not take this out at any point. Maybe the Downard. I didn't need the Downard because a lot of times when I was doing it off of a pop, and then I would go into Zeus, attack, and attack with this, go into Zeus. So I didn't necessarily need the Downer because it gave me an odd number of attachments, which is fine. But yeah, extra deck is still the same. I will definitely make some changes to the extra deck, especially considering I am trying to go into other engines right now. I'm considering Punk, so obviously that'll change quite a bit. Side deck is very different for the most part, especially in terms of the concepts that I was using for what I was doing them for. So we have 3-dimensional barrier. Of course, that's for the obvious matchups, fusions, synchros, anything else that plays XYZs. Of course, this card is just obviously great against, the main cards in the format. I definitely think it's necessary. I like setting it in, even going second, because it is a nice card to follow up on. So as you go and play into a board, you want to be able to set this after the fact, be able to stop them from playing their next turn and then try to kill them on the next turn. If you can't kill them the turn that you're going into play. So it's nice to have this, it just creates an instance like Scythe where your opponent just can't play the game. 1 Harpies and 2 Twin Twister. Of course, I sided this in for any heavy back row decks. I did play against a straight Eldlich deck. I'm assuming that it was a 40 card or 38 card trap deck, because both games he set 5, and honestly, both games he got killed on turn 1. I was able to play through all of his back row. The one turn, actually, he summoned Ecclesia in Search, so it wasn't 38 monsters, but yeah, or 38 traps. But yeah, it definitely, like I said, Twin Twister, Harpies puts in work. We've got the Droll and Lockbirds for the obvious matchups, the searching matchups, Floowanderees. I do like it against Despia. I normally tend to not put it in because, of course, everyone's doing the branded in the draw phase, so it kind of feels bad. And I don't really care if they get polymerization, because polymerization isn't really the bread and butter of their deck. It's more the branded fusion, so you want to have other targets or other cards that are better for it. This was the main change, was the Kaiju. Honestly, this card overperformed. So being able to play your Kaiju on the Despia matchup is what it was mainly for. So I wanted to be able to combine these two in tangent with each other when playing against that matchup, just because of the fact that seeing these two pretty much blow out your opponent's entire turn. This hits the Brandon in red, and then this hits their Mirror Jade. And then they just can't play the game. Like there's nothing left for them to do. You go standby main comes, you put this right over their Mirror Jade. 9 times out of 10, that's the only monster they have in hand, unless they opened up Cracked. And then they can't DD Crow now with their hand trap to stop their branded red. So it was very nice. All the games that I played against Despia, I seen both of these. The only problem was In the last matchup, on the last round that I played against Despia, I did see both of these. It's just I saw them with a Wandering Griffin Rider and a Sir. So it left me with literally just a Phantom Knight Torn Scale and a Boot. And on my normal summon, he just summons Snow, and I just can't play the game with, you know, no extenders or anything else to actually play the game with. But yeah, like I said, this overperformed. You're able to Draco back it back to your hand as well. Also, the biggest thing that I liked about this is that it's a monster you're putting in attack mode, and you're being able to then Rebellion over it. That was very important because of the fact that, like, you put this on your opponent's side of the board, it sits there, and then, you know, you just play through the rest of their board or whatever back row that they have, leave their monsters on board, swing over this, and they lose. So it was very nice. And then again, like I said, you Draco back it back to your hand, and you're able to use it for another turn if you need to. So I thought it was pretty solid. Sideboard was actually really great. I think everything pretty much performed very well. I really wanted the drone logboards in there too because I noticed Drytron was kind of making a comeback with Ben 10 at 2 since the ban list. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this. That was my tournament report for Lockhaven, Pennsylvania Regional. Like I said, I got 9th place. You know, I definitely plan on making some changes. The next brew that I'm actually looking at is going to be with the Punk Engine. I definitely think the Punk Engine can perform very well with the Phantom Knights. I was skeptical about it at first, honestly. I didn't really want to give it a chance. I just wanted to kind of play more of the Phantom Knight Brave, but I am considering actually doing all 3. So I'm going to mess around with it a little bit, see what I can come up with. I do know that there's a lot of people who've already been trying the Punk Engine with Phantom Knights, and there's been a lot of success, a lot of cool combos, and I really want to kind of dive into that and see what else I can do with it. So yeah, hopefully, you know, you guys enjoy this. Like and subscribe, and again, jump in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think. You know, let's transform the deck and continue to make changes, you know, and again, like and subscribe, and enjoy the channel, guys.